Hello everyone, welcome to the third video in this particular course and playlist. Today we're going to learn how to create an animated tab widget. Let's see how that works exactly. Okay, so we have this particular widget here. So there are 4 tabs. So if I should click on it, we can see the animation. It slides to the right. So we have it here, and this is the same widget we have here, but just a bit of edit, and we can see that the animation is completely different. Okay, and if we should go here also, we have the same widget here, and if we should look at it, it slides up and down. So this is what we have here. So what we are going to be learning actually is the concept of learning to create animations like this. So you can choose the custom animation you want. Okay, whether you want it to flip, you want it to, whenever a tab is clicked, you want it to come up in a particular way, you can build on that and use this in various ways because it has a whole lot of application. So without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so right here I have my folder and open with Visual Studio Code. Okay, so I have my Visual Studio Code opened, and the only thing I have here is an SVG, which we're going to make use of as an image. If you haven't worked with SVGs before, don't worry about that. We're just going to be using it um as an image, so any advanced things with SVGs won't be looking at them yet. So I'll put that in a separate video. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so the image, we're going to be using the same image over. Okay, so I'm going to create my files. So index.html. Okay, style.css, and tab.js. Okay, so I have basically everything I need right now. Okay, I'm going to drag this here. All right. Okay, so I have my boiler template. What I'm going to do is link to this particular style sheet. So I'm going to link to it. Okay, so I'm going to select CSS here, style.css, and right here, I'm going to link to my script file. Okay, so tab.js. All right. Now, while in this particular um project, this particular widget, I made use of a CSS framework, Bootstrap. If we should look at the source code, for example, okay, we'll see that it was linked to Bootstrap. But since this is not a tutorial covering Bootstrap, so we're just going to make use of pure CSS. At least that will enable you to use CSS better. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a wrapper for this particular widget, so everything that would be inside here. So that's the first thing I'm going to create. So let's start. I'm going to start with dot tab. So this will automatically generate our div tag. So right there, I'm going to have to main section, which is going to be the tab header. Okay, and using a VS Code shortcode, I can put okay, and I'm going to have tab body. So I'm going to have those two um, divs. Then inside of my tab header, there are going to be four main things, four sections. So let's look at it. So there are going to be four divs. I'm going to have dot tab head. So let me just use a shortcut times 4. Okay, and right inside of here, the first one is going to be, okay, let me just copy about, and then after that have, I think, contact, font awesome. So what I'm just going to do now is I'm going to have to link to font awesome. So I'm going to come right here, up here. So right up here, I'm going to paste this in. So this will automatically link to font awesome. That way I'll be able to make use of their icon font, since that's what we're using now. So for um the first icon which you have here, now if you haven't, I have installed a Visual Studio Code extension for font awesome. So for that I can just make use of FA4 and code. So if I should press my tab, I have this. So the second thing is for about. Okay, which icon was used for that? So I think I can just use FA4, then edit. Though I'm not really sure, but let's see. Okay, I think we should have something that has to do with right. Okay, let's try document. I had actually forgotten. Um, okay, let's just make use of this for the main time while we check their repository. Okay, so the fourth one, which is the next one, which is analytics. Okay, we have analytics. So for analytics, I think we should have, okay, we should have FA bar chart. All right, and then the last one, which is going to be contact. So I think we should have something such as, okay, FA4, then my dash envelope. Okay, and I think for these I should have something like FA pencil. Okay, yeah, pencil square. All right, so let's turn on our live server and let's see what we've done so far. Okay, so we have these. Okay, I'm going to remove the contact. Okay, let's do the same for the tab body. So I'm going to um skip the video a bit, so to write the necessary templates we need. Okay, so basically what I did was, inside our tab body div, I added a tab body content. So I added this. So inside it we have two classes columns. So this is the first column here, and this is the second column here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that in 4 places. I won't want to skip too much ahead because I want us to follow these step by step. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. Okay, now what we need to do is, for to distinguish for the second one, so we're going to rename it About Heading. And the third one should be Analytics. Yeah, Analytics. Analytics heading. And then the last one is going to be Contacts. Okay, so let's see that's up here. Okay, we've done this. Now let's add some styling before we actually go into our functionality. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is my body. The body of the document, I'm going to add a background color. Okay, I think I copied some values. So okay, so I'm going to select that dot tab. Remember, we are selecting with IDs, you use a hash notation. So this is the hash. Okay, so let's get back on course. So I'm going to put these the width. I'm going to put it to, all right, let's say something around 700 pixels. Okay, I'm going to put the padding 20 pixels. Okay, border radius to add those corners to it, border radius of, let's say, 8 pixels. And then the background color, okay, I'm going to add, I have a particular color I want here, so which is this. All right, and then the box shadow, so I'm going to add a box shadow. I've also copied a particular value. Okay, so we're going to use this, and I'm going to explain what this does in a while actually, so just be patient. And now let's see what we actually have. Okay, so we have this. Okay, and then we'll make the color, we're going to make the color white, which is FFF. Okay, so we have that already. So let's move to the next stage quickly. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is actually deal with this particular heading here. So but before I continue, I'm going to the width, set the height. So what we're going to do is, first I'm going to set margin top, so to add the little space we had, so I'm going to use something like 30 pixels. Then I'm going to put auto. So auto we make it centralized. So if we should check here now, okay, oh sorry, margin, so we can just put it margin 30 pixels auto, so automatically it will make it be in the center. So instead of using pixels for the width, I'm going to use a relative unit instead of an absolute unit. And I think what I used earlier was, okay, let's use 100 rem. Okay, 50 rem. Okay, I think that looks better, but let's make it a bit wider. 80 rem. Okay, that looks too okay. I think that's okay and manageable to an extent. Okay, the margin, let's make it 50 pixels auto. Okay, and then we're going to set the height also. So let's set it to 70 rem. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, still a bit tall. Okay, so we have this here. Okay, but it's still a bit too tall, so we're going to make it, let's say, 40 rem. I don't want that. I want, okay, 30 rem. Okay, so about this particular um overflowing. You'll see what we're going to do with that in a moment. But first, let's take care of this. So I'm going to go into the class that we have, which is the tab header. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, so what I'm going to put is display. I'm going to set it into flexbox display. Okay, so we have that. Then the next thing I want to do is, okay, so we're going to set the width to 25%. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set the margin. We're going to have margin of 20 pixels. Okay, and another thing I want to make sure is, okay, the font size is actually okay. So I'm going to come and select the head, so the tab head, then okay, H. Okay, do we have any H tags on there? No, but then I'm going to instead, okay, let's put a font size of 2 rem. So what this rem does, in case I have not explained and you don't know about it before, is now the root element font size, it actually works with that. So if I have 2 rem and the original size for the browser, the original font size of the browser is actually 16 pixels, for example, it will automatically times that by 2. So the new font size is going to be 32. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, it's looking better. So I'm going to put padding bottom. Okay, let me add a bottom to that. So that will be 30 pixels, and then we're going to add a border bottom 1, okay, 2 pix solid. Then I'm going to use RGB, then I'm going to set it to 160, 160, and 160. Okay, so let's see what that gives us so far. Okay, so instead of 2 pixels, I'm going to set it to something like 7 pixels. Okay, text align center, so to centralize our text. Okay, then let's go to the icon tags. So I'm going to select all the icons that we have under this particular class, and what I'm going to do to them is give it a display of block. So what it does is it will make it be on its own line. So display of block. Okay, okay, if you notice, now we actually put our text first before the icon, so which was different from how I actually did it here. But then let's say you have a particularly large chunk of HTML code, it might be a bit stressful um shifting this. So another thing I could do is, there are a lot of ways to take care of this, but instead of me just copying this and then moving it here, I can do that, but I can instead convert this. Okay, so I'm going to do this first. I'm going to remove what we have here, so we are back to this particular thing we have. So I'm going to change it to a flex box. So display, then flex. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a column flex. So all I'm going to do is flex direction, then I'm going to have column. Okay, so another thing I could do is I could just put column reverse. Okay, and let's see what that does. All right, so we have this just the way we want. And another thing I could do is then I'm going to add the bottom. Okay, okay, let's make it 10. Let's divide that by 2. Okay, things are actually looking good, but let me reduce the font size a bit. So instead of 2 rem, I'm going to put 1.5. So, and then okay, leaving the margin, the padding bottom, I'm going to leave it to 15. And okay, I think that's pretty much everything. Okay, so then we're going to add our over effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this here. Okay, then I'm going to add the pseudo class of over. Okay, so what should happen when we over it? Okay, so we want the color. The color should be yellow. Okay, that's the first thing. And then the border should change color. So the border bottom should be, instead of this grayish color we have, we're going to change it to yellow also. All right, let's see what that gives us. Okay, so another thing we want to do is whenever we over on it, there should be a kind of cursor to show that yes, we are actually overing on this and we want to click on it. So yeah, this particular hand here. Now another thing we need to do is, it's not really nice the way we have it here. So I'm going to add a smooth transition. So all I'm going to do here is transition. So I'm going to just select all. So the time frame for it, so I'm going to specify 0.3 seconds. You can also write 300 milliseconds, but I prefer just using my 0.3 seconds, my fraction. So, and then the animation effect, if you want it to be is in, out, is in, is out, I always prefer using this. So let's see what that gives us now. Okay, so you see it's giving us that smooth transition. All right, so let's move into the tab body itself. Okay, so we have the tab body and the tab body content. So I'm going to copy this, the tab body content. Okay, so I'm going to change set it for in flex mode. Okay, so I'm going to add a flex box to it, and let's see. So that automatically had this. All right, so things are actually looking a bit better, but then I'm going to select my tab body, use this to select. Okay, add my dots, and then okay, the first thing I'm going to do is the font size. Okay, every paragraphs we have, so in the body, so what I'm going to do is set it to font size, set it to, let's say, 1.2 or 1.1 rem. Okay, and then the heading, I'm going to set it to h4. Then I'm going to set it to, let's say, 2 rem, but instead of 2 rem, let's set it to 1.7. And then we want the color, so we want the color to be the particular color we used here. Okay, so let's see what that gives us. All right, it's looking good. Now the tab body, I'm going to add a bit of padding to it. Okay, okay, let's add a padding of 20 pixels. Okay, looking better. And another thing I'm going to do is Okay, let's increase this to 1.2. Another thing I'm going to do is the line height. Line height, let's make it 1.7. Let's see what that's 5. Observe that this particular image, it's actually weather. So what I'm going to do is make it. I'm going to select all images. So IMG, all IMG tags. I'm going to make the width 100% and the height auto. Okay, now let's see what that does. All right. Okay, another thing I'm going to do is I didn't set the width for each flex containers. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to come to tab body content. I'm going to select all the columns that we have, so make them 50%. So let's come down. So because right now the way they are displaying is any element that takes the most width is going to, that contains the most, is going to take them all. I don't know how to explain that the way you get, but let me put it this way. So if the particular image we have here is, let's say, 200 pixels, it's going to take the greater percentage of the flex container. So same way when we made it that okay, the image should we resize the image, then this automatically took the larger percentage. So let's change that by making these columns. Okay, so I think, did we get it right? No, column. So we're going to set the width to 50%. 50%. So let's see what that gives us. Okay. So I'm going to adjust the height of our tab once again. So the height, we set it to 30. So let's set it to 35 and let's see what that gives us. Okay, I think 34 rem should be good. Okay, another thing I want to do is okay, align items and then center. Okay, let's see what that gives us. Okay, it brings everything to the center. Okay, so we've had the basic thing going. So the next thing I'm going to do is, now because we want the first element in the tab to show, so we are going to add a particular class of active. So for this, for example, the first one I'm going to add active, then the second one also I'm going to add active. Okay, the tab is active. So this is to let us know, okay, whichever one is active. So I'm going to come to dot tab heads. Okay, dot tab heads, then dot active. So whichever element has the tab heads and also has active, we're going to apply it to it. So we're going to um actually change this. So now the first, since we are always the first element is going to be active, so all right, that's the first thing we want to do. And then secondly, for this this overflow, what we're going to do is right in my tab, yeah, right here, I'm going to add an overflow of hidden. So whatever extra element that is there, it's going to hide. You see, it has hidden this every other thing. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is come down here. Now the tab but it is where the bulk of the work is. So okay, what we're going to actually do is we are going to change the position. We're going to change it to absolute. So let's see what that does. Now, one thing you should note is whenever you set a position to absolute, it will automatically set itself out of the normal flow of the document in relation to the root HTML document. Now, what you can do to actually avoid that is you are going to set a containing element. You are going to set it to relative. So let's say if I'm going to set everything here, if I'm going to set okay this particular column to absolute, for example, automatically it will take it out of the normal flow and in relativeness to the root document. But if I should set the containing element, which is this tab body content, to relative, or let's say the tab itself, this parent element also, if I should set it to relative, it will then position itself in an absolute positioning in reference to the relative positioning of the parent container. So I hope you get that. So what I'm going to do is have the relative position. Okay, so we have the tab body, yeah. Okay, so we're going to have the relative position here. Position relative. Now let's see. We see that it's now overlapping directly on each other, which is actually better than what we have when it was going out of the flow of our widgets. So we don't want that in any case at all. Okay, so but we see everything is overlapping on each other. So how are we going to actually decide that this particular one is showing and this one is not showing? So what we are going to do is the tab body content, we are actually going to change opacity to 0. Okay, and then another thing I'm going to add is transform. So I'm going to change it to I'm going to add translate X. I'm going to add, let's say, 1,000 pixels. Okay, so we don't see anything here. Now if I should use my developer tools and okay, let's come right here, okay, inside here. So let's come inside the body. Inside the body we have this here. We see that it has moved out of here. So what the translate does, it moves it away. So depending on whichever one they are, we have the translate X, Y, Z. So whichever one you use, so it's going to move the elements away, and then opacity 0, it's going to hide it. So I'm going to copy that. So I'm going to come here, dot active. So when it's as active, then we're going to make sure that the opacity and the transform, okay, so we're going to make the translate X 0 and then the opacity 1, and then I'm going to add a transition so that whenever everything is moving it should add those smooth effects. So you can decide to, when you're using transition, I can decide to choose the particular property I want to smooth. So I can decide to add the 0.33 seconds and then ease in out. But what I want actually is okay, everything, then 0.3 seconds, then ease in out. So whichever one that has the active is still going to show. So if you should look at that, okay, we have the first element showing. So we've had the basic thing in this particular widget going. So let's see how we're going to actually make this into the tab layouts and add the different animations we actually want. Okay, we've had the bulk of our app going, our widgets going. So let's see how we're actually going to have the functionality, okay, the animation that we are looking so much. Okay, so we basically need to, okay, choose. We are going to create 4 variables. So, and the variable we're going to be creating is, we are going to target, we are so we are going to, okay, select this part, and then we'll move and then select, okay, the tab body itself. So let's see how we're actually going to achieve that. So I'm going to create 4 constants. The first one is, okay, so we are going to create a tab header equals to document dot query selector. Okay, so let's look at, since we are going to be using the class to select it, so I'm just going to copy this query selector, then we're going to use our dot notation. All right, so that's the first thing we're going to um select. So the second thing is, we're going to create a variable for the individual tab heads. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, tab heads equals document dot query selector all. Now remember, query selector is just going to select a single element, but the query selector is going to select multiple. So I'm going to put these, okay, my dot, and then paste. So tab 8. So then the third thing I'm going to select is my tab body. So const tab body equals document dot query selector. So I'm not using query selector also, I'm going to use query selector. So let's see the tab body, we're going to copy this. Okay, we have that. Then the next thing is const, then okay, we're going to use tab, okay, let's use tab body content equals to document dot query selector all. So I'm going to copy the class also from here. Okay, so let's console dot log and let's see what that gives us. So the first is tab header. Okay, so the second is console dot log. So tab heads. Then the third, console, okay, console dot log. Okay, tab body. Then the fourth, console dot log. Tab body content. Okay, if I should go back here and I should open the developer tools. Now let's go to the console. Now the first thing we selected with the query selector, we only selected a single element, so which is this. So everything that is right here. So the second one returns a node list, and remember, a node list is similar to an array. So, and the third returns is for the tab body, and then the last one is a node list for each individual um tab body content. Okay, um most of what we need is Visual Studio Code. Okay, so on each let me close this. Whenever we click on this, so that's when we want the magic to happen. What I'm going to do is, okay, I'm going to use a for loop. So the way for loop usually goes is, so I'm going to have a for, and I'm going to have this. Now this here is where my code will enter, and this right inside this bracket here is where I'm going to define the loop variable and the conditions. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a variable inside the for loop, I equals 0. Then I'm going to use a semicolon. Then I is less than, what we're going to do is we use our tab heads. Now tab heads dot length. Now remember, the node list is similar to array, so there's some method we can use on an array that we can use on this. So I'm going to add the increment. Okay, so basically what we are telling it is it should loop through the head, the amount of time that, okay, we have this head. So if we have 4 heads, so it should repeat this particular code block that number of time, and this, in this case, we have it 4 times. So the next thing I'm going to do is this. Now tab heads, so so that is, remember, we can actually look into an array with using this. So if I should come, let me come to, okay, so let me come to my console. So we already have tab heads defined. Oh, sorry, tab heads. Now remember, it gives a node list. So if I want to maybe access anyone inside it, I can use 1. So it gives me the first one. I can use 0. So I can use 3. I can use 4. Oh, sorry, it ends at 3 since we have 4 elements, and then the numbering starts from 0. So 0 is the first, 1 is the second, 2 is the third, and 3 is the fourth. So we can see it taking each of the elements. So we are going to now tell you that while you are looping through, you are going to add an event listener. Okay, so which event listener are we going to be listening for? It is a click event. So what I'm going to now do is, the second parameter in this event listener is the function. So you can either do something like this, function, and then, okay, create your function this way, but I'm going to be using the arrow function. I love using it. It's actually simpler and straightforward. So since we have, okay, we are not taking in any parameter, so we're just going to add your square equals and then this greater than sign. So what I'm going to do is, for each what's it called that you're listening for, so I'm going to tell JavaScript that now in this tab header, so tab header dot, now query selector. So now instead of using documents, the document.query selector is going to actually select, we want to make a selection from the root document, but now we want to make a selection that is peculiar to this particular header. So what we want to select is active. So any element inside the tab header that has the active class, that's basically what we are saying. Dot class list dot remove. Then what do we want to remove? Active. Then we want to make sure that, okay, the tab heads while looping through dot class list dot add. Then what do we want to add? We want to add that active in it. So let's see how that actually would work out. So let's go back to our browser. Okay, I'm going to close this. So we see it's adding. Whenever we click on it, is actually moving, but it's not, we see that it's not affecting this particular body. So that's because we haven't gotten to it yet. Another thing we want to do is body dot, okay, query active class also dot query selector. Then, okay, we want to look for active class list. Then we're going to remove, okay, active. So wherever you have active, we are going to actually remove you away. Then the tab body so while looping through, so if it's at 1 presently, let's say we click on the first one, okay, it quickly looks through and, okay, is there active here? okay, remove active, then add active to the tab head. Now looking through the body, now the tab body is going to actually remove the active away from it, and then the particular index is in, it's in, whether it's in one, it's going to use the same index here. So that's the essence of the code. So we're going to use the class list dot add, then active. So if we should come here, so let's see what that actually gives us. Okay, then we must have made a mistake somewhere here. So let's actually okay, let's check our code again. Oh, so instead we're adding the tab the active to the tab body instead of the tab body content. Okay, so let's see what that gives us. So let's click on that, so we can see our tab moving. Okay, another thing is the transition for the header is taking a bit long and a bit confusing. So right here I'm going to have, okay, let's change the over color to, let's say, um magenta. Okay, and let's see what that gives us. Okay, now this is all nice and good, but what if you want to change the particular animation it's actually bringing? So this is where we are going to make use of the transform function. Now let's go back to this um so let's go back to this particular tab body. You see, presently we set it at translate x. So if I should change it to scale, so let's change it to scale. So we change the scale to 0, and then here we change the scale to 1. So basically initially it's going to be it's going to shrink it down, scale it down, and then right here is going to come back to the normal size. So if I should come back to this particular document, let me refresh. We can see that the animation now that it's bringing out is actually different. So that is the way you can actually change the animation effect. So let's say I want something such as rotate. So if I should change this to rotate x, let's say I set it to 200 degrees, and then I set, let me just copy this. Now going back to our widget, let's refresh that since refreshed automatically. Again, okay, I guess something is, let's open this. Let's duplicate these and okay, make that refresh. Okay, so let's do that again. You see the animation effect has changed, different. So if I change it from x to y, for example, so that way I can have a plethora, a lot of um animation effect as much as I want. So you can even do this in different styles and then put different animation effects. So if I should do this, you see it's flipping, like turning like a book. So we have a lot you can use. So if I should, for example, let me use translate y. Yeah, so let's change this to translate y. Remember we used translate x initially. So the initially you're going to translate, and then okay. Now remember, some takes in degree, some take in pixel. I'm going to give you the link. I'm going to drop the link in the description so you can familiarize yourself with transform, make yourself more acquainted to this particular function and property. So translate y 1000 pixels, and then right here we want 0 pixels. Okay, so let's see what kind of cool animation that actually gives us. Okay, I'm going to refresh. All right, you see now up and down movement, so that way you can add various animation effects you want. So if you should come down here in this particular Mozilla documentation, you'll see rotate. Now rotate, as we have just rotate, we have rotate X, Y, Z, we have rotate 3D. The this take in 360 degree, and then this just takes in numerical values without any units. For scale takes in degree, for translate takes in values such as pixels, and then we have matrix. So you can use this to learn how to add some animations like we did. Now if you look at what the example that I was given here, you'll see that using this particular thing we can create various animations with the transform property. So once you can learn this, you can master this, you can own it to your skills and create powerful and nice and interesting animation, something like we have here, you see. So and here we have something like this, and here we have this. So if you want it from the left to the right, for example, I can change it to X. Let's change it to X. So I can put minus 1000 pixels. So let's see what that gives us. You see? So it gives us that. So that is it. Now, let's not forget before we run this up. So now I mentioned the box shadow earlier. So we have 3 different parameters. Now, and the best way to quickly show you what they all do is playing around with the value. So let's say I had put this to 1, put this to, let's say, instead of 0 0.5, 1.5, and then put this to 2, and then change this instead to, let's say, yellow. So let's see what that actually turns into. Okay, let me reduce this to 0. Okay, let me inspect. Okay, let me disable the cache and then reload. Okay, so how the box shadow actually works is it takes in various values. The first one is the horizontal offset, then we have the vertical offset, then we have the blur and spread, and then the color. So let me show you a typical example. So I'm going to just come here. Okay, so let me show you a typical example. So right here in my browser, I'm going to open up the developer tools. So right here in my tab, I'm going to take this off. Okay, so I'm going to add a custom box shadow. Okay, so the first is I can add 2 pixels, and then 5 pixels, and then let's say white. So we can see that it adds this right here. So if I wanted to come down the more, so all I have to do is make it 10. So we can see that. Okay, so let's say I want it to go to the side more. Let's say I had 5. Now another thing is I can add a third parameter, which is 2 pixels. Now we can see it adds a kind of blur to it, and then we can add another one 2 pixels, so it spreads it. So but then let's just put 2 pixels. Now with this particular box, I'm going to put 1 rem. Okay, actually one property to the verse value right there. So I'm going to undo the the particular value needed. So refreshing. Now we can see our shadow. Now it's pretty apparent and it's giving it a better look. So we've come to the end of this particular tutorial. If you would like to make any custom requests, okay, so it will be added to the course itinerary, and then we can work on that particular project. Maybe there's a particular JavaScript concept or maybe HTML or CSS concept that has been confusing to you, then don't forget to put it down in the description below. And another thing, don't forget to follow and like the video, follow and subscribe to our channel, and also our Facebook and Twitter account. You can see the links in the description below. So the channel is new, and I would really very much like your support. Thank you very much.